Hello YouTube, I hope you're having a fabulous day. March is here and it seems like winter is officially over. But don't put away your winter coats just yet because like right now in New York City it's 50 degrees and I think the temperature is going to lower, so probably next week or the week after. But briefly I wanted to talk about Kendrick Johnson. Now, Kendrick Johnson passed away January 10th of 2013. That was like a while ago, about 12 years ago. And the story really bothered me because I am a teacher's aide and he passed away like in school. So I was like doing the research because all of us who have kids, I feel like what happened to him could happen to anybody's child. Because my question is, what is the laws? Because one thing my father and uncle always said, it's important to do research. You know, you can get emotional about something or you can get upset, but it's good to like know the rules of things. Like even, when it comes to anything, low wages, a job and what you're supposed to do, the laws against that, the rules. It's always good to like look stuff up just in general because some things may be allowed. Just like recently I called, right now I'm in a junior high school, but I was in an elementary and we were changing Pampers. And so I called 311 like, okay, like what are the laws? Like luckily I'm a sub and I could just move around as I see fit. I could work at whatever school. But I just, I like wanted to know like what grounds do we stand on. So the lady on the phone, she was reading me the law and she said that by law, she said the laws have changed since COVID. And yes, parents are obligated, if they work in an elementary school, they are obligated to change Pampers until the first grade. So, it's important to know the laws and the rules of things. But the messed up part about it, they never ask nobody. They just accept the students. And if you a parent that's with it, I was with it for a while. I didn't plan on staying this long. So I left because I ain't got no babies at home. My son's 16. And even when he was a baby, I was like, nah. I worked at 2 daycares. Like my first trimester. And by my second trimester, I was in an elementary school working for a nonprofit. And I think I spoke about it before. City year, that was like the best job ever. I was working with people my own age. They did so much for us to make work fun. We had LDDJ where we would talk about things on a Friday. We didn't have to work on Fridays. We would entertain each other in different auditoriums, different schools. So basically we would be in different urban communities in the Bronx, Bed-Stuy, East New York, and we would work in different schools. My school was PS 213 in East New York, and it was fun. Like 16 years later, it was fun. I would recommend it for anybody who, that's young and, you just want a job, you just want to. Now, if you have bills and rent and stuff, because it's a job that's only for 10 months, so I wouldn't recommend it if you have like financial obligations, because once the 10 months is over, that's it. You get unemployment and then you'll have to get a new job. But it was a great experience nevertheless. If you do have your bachelor's, they do have full-time positions such as service leader, program manager, and different things of that stature, but you're never in the classroom, you don't interact with the kids, you just do like the paperwork and the office part. So that might be a little whack, but nevertheless, it was dope. And that was like my favorite job. That was like the best job I had. And if I could relive it again, I would, because I just had so much fun. Like, it was fun from start to finish. There was never a day where I felt like I want to quit. I never felt like that for me. Other people felt like that, but for me, I ain't feel like that. But I digress. Anyway, so yeah, so that's what led me to para when I was doing security. Yeah, it was good money, but I wanted something more fulfilling. I knew that I love children. Somebody from the city here, we have an alumni page because we had a graduation at Gracie Mansion, and so we're considered alumni. Though we didn't get a degree from them or whatever, many of us got our degrees after. Like, I just got my degree in 2022. And some other old coworkers of mine, they got, they got their degrees over time. But it was put on somebody's page that the principal was looking for a para. I had no idea what a para was. I actually thought a para was somebody who worked in a cafeteria, because I remember working in 213 and one of my coworkers had a crush on a para, and I was like, what do they do? Like, I didn't know. So then when I inquired about it, they was like, no, you actually work in the class. Because I asked that, I said, are you working in the classroom? So once I heard that, I was happy. I didn't care about the pay. I didn't care. I just was like, I need a job where I don't need nobody to, watch my son. That was my whole thing. So my son was little back then, so I was on it. I didn't care the pay. I didn't care. I just was like fiending to work with kids again. I didn't even care about the pay. I didn't care. Looking back on it, all things happen for a reason, but I would not recommend it. Again, if you have obligations and stuff, you have to have another income, whether it be SSI, whether if you live in the PJs. Now with this job, it's ongoing when you're a para. Whether at city here, that's for 10 months. So that's a big difference, And then with city here, that was a stipend. This one is actually paid per day. Yeah, so Kendrick Johnson. Well, first I was talking about the nonprofit I used to work for. So yes, it was a nonprofit, and that's how I knew about the para job. It was on the alumni page, and yeah, that's how I got it. And I don't regret it, because I met wonderful people along the way. It pushed me to go back to school. The different things I experienced wasn't so nice, but it made me who I am today. And yeah, I'm looking forward to my new job. And yes, it's my last week. I'll be with COE, and yeah, on to bigger and better things. 25 is the year. 22, I graduated. And I just want to briefly say that all my college graduates out there, if you just graduated college, don't give up. Don't settle for just any job. Make sure the job is paying. Okay? I don't care what nobody say. And listen, you got bills to pay, you got responsibilities. Yeah. So it's always good to pray, put God first, but don't give up in your job search. Don't feel like, because guess what? I graduated in May. I was hired for a job that September. I turned that down. And then like in 23, I didn't get hired for anything. 24, I got hired for something in the summer, but they took so long, I turned that down. And I finally got something worthwhile, so it took about almost 3 years, but worth the wait. And yeah, I was determined. I was like, I was not gonna leave what I had for something less. I was gonna make sure it was for something worthwhile. So I just wanted to put that out there. But back to what I saw last night, Kendrick Johnson. I started talking about my job because he died in school. So I was trying to research like the laws about that. And there is no law saying that the teachers are held liable if something happens to your child, which is scary to me because we send our kids to school every day, regardless if it's charter, private, or public, and God forbid something could happen to them. Now, we know that if something happens to them, like with my son, he broke his foot, or it wasn't broken, but he injured his foot and was out of school for a week. And so I didn't pick up the phone. My father picked up the phone, and so he picked him up from school. So things like that. But Kendrick Johnson was clearly murdered. It's kind of obvious it was not an accident. And I wanted to talk about his death a little bit because it's very disturbing to me. So Kendrick Johnson was from Valdosta, Georgia. And that's way deep in Georgia. Like, that's like very deep in Georgia. It's past Atlanta. And it's one of the most racist towns till this day. There's a long history of racism. Ku Klux Klan. Mary Turner, she's from 1918. And when they talked about the story from her, I was crying. It was just so sad. So she was a 21-year-old expectant mother. She was pregnant, 8 months pregnant, and her husband was lynched. So naturally, like any woman, she spoke out about it. So her speaking out led to her murder. She was lynched, and they didn't just lynch her. They actually cut the baby out of her stomach and stomped the baby. And these were Ku Klux Klan members that did this. And that part of the documentary I just broke down because it's just sad that they did that. And then 100 years later, for her memorial, they shot up her memorial. So now when you walk past, mind you, that's 2018. That wasn't that long ago. That was 7 years ago. They shot up her memorial. So the people who shot up her memorial are obviously KKK members. That's another thing I did not know. That Ku Klux Klan still exists, y'all. Comment, like, and subscribe if y'all notice. Black History Month over, but I still gotta talk about it. The Ku Klux Klan still exists. I did not know that they still exist, but obviously it was them who shot up her memorial for her 100th Memorial Day for Mary Turner. And it's just a very sad story. I never heard nothing that sad in my life, that they would sit there and they cut out her baby and stomp the baby out. Like, what is the baby gonna do at that point, you know? But it just shows the level of hatred that they have for our people. So for Kendrick Johnson, he was found in the gym inside of a mat inside of school. They looked on the cameras and 4 hours of footage is missing. Now, I did security for 5 years. I did it 2012 to 2016. Very enjoyable time. I could truly say those were probably like the happiest moments of my life. Honestly. As far as a job. That and city year. And I'm trying to think. Yes, there was always cameras. There was always an opportunity to look at a camera. Nobody ever had an incident where they needed to look at our cameras, but I said that to say this. Security is in charge of cameras generally. If somebody wants to look at camera footage, they have to go to security. So in this case, it's school safety. Up here in New York, we call them school safety. I don't know what they call them down there in Georgia. But it's like, why was there 4 hours of footage missing from the cameras? Number one. Number two, why nobody says sorry to the parents? I can't imagine sending my son to school and he passes away and not a teacher, principal, or anybody says sorry to me. Sorry for the death of your child. And what are the laws for Department of Education? Because this was a public school. What are the laws that a child passes away on the premises? Because I was researching it and I didn't see anything. His family sued the superintendent, the principal, and the school, as they should, and they won money. But for me, money wouldn't be enough. Like, people need to lose their jobs. First of all, and this is from what I know, being an employee of DOE, children of any age are not supposed to be alone at any time. Okay, the only way that they're permitted to be alone is like, I'm trying to think, the bathroom, like literally. If they are in the hallways, there's some adult that's in the hallway with them, you know what I'm saying, that's seeing what, like, there's no point of when children are alone. They might be, even in the library, there's a teacher in that library. Yes, there is. Trying to think where else. In the workout room, 9 times out of 10, sometimes there may not be an adult, depending if it's after school hours. So that's a little dangerous. But again, that depends on the school. But for the most part, during the day, and I'm talking about school hours, children are never left alone. I personally have never seen that. Again, maybe the laws are different from Georgia versus New York, but up here in New York, students are not going to be by themselves in the gym. So the fact that they was able to unalive him in a gym is baffling to me, because that means that there was an adult in a room and they let it happen. That's what makes it so crazy, that there was a gym teacher in that gym. Obviously more than one person had to do that. This boy was 5'10", and when they found him, his face looked like Emmett Till. They actually compared his face to Emmett Till. It wasn't in water, but it was very bloated. It had bruises on his face. He had bruises all over his body. So obviously they beat him up and then they put him in this mat to hide his body. And this had to happen during class time, because how else would they have been able to do it and put his body there, right? Also, there's 4 hours of footage missing, which means they're trying to cover it up to see who was in the gym who did this. He had a beef with 2 white boys that were brothers, and they were the suspects. They couldn't prove anything, so it never went to trial. Nobody got arrested. But my heart goes out to Kendrick Johnson. If y'all don't know the story, please look it up. It's a very sad story, but it's educational, because I need to know that. Like, I've been searching the web, but what are the laws when we send our children to school and they pass away? What's the responsibility of the faculty? I feel like the gym teacher should be in jail for negligence, because you didn't even try to intervene to stop him. He obviously got beaten up and was put in a mat. So it's like, and then, you know, the detectives, one detective was on the documentary. It's unclear what he was trying to do, because first of all, if it was me, like, you know, investigating the story, I'm going to talk to the gym teacher. What were you doing during the time of incident? All the gym teachers that were supposed to be there that day and who came to work, I'm going to look at people, time cards, whatever. Who came to work that day and was in the gym? That's who we need to find out, right? And you could easily find that out from the secretary or the principal. The principal would know, like, who's the gym teacher and the different periods, because in a high school, you typically have 10 periods. So this was like early in the morning or afternoon. So we looking at between periods 2 and 5 or 2 and 6. Who was the teacher for that period for that class? And that's so easy to find that out, even if you didn't have cameras. The time that he was labeled deceased, right, obviously means, or even the time he was found, who was in that gym with him? What class? What teacher? And why didn't the teacher do anything? Like, you didn't even, after the period was over, they just jumped the boy and put him in a mat. And I can imagine, like, being afraid. And I get that. We're all human. But I don't understand how not one teacher in that whole school has anything to say. They don't know anything. Nobody knows anything. None of the students know anything. His so-called best friend didn't know anything. He was on a documentary. All he knew is that he had beef with the white boy, but he didn't know what happened to him that day. You wasn't with him in class. Like, I don't understand how nobody knows nothing, nobody's saying anything, and that's what's frustrating, because if he would have hung out with his friends and went to a party, it would make, not saying that he has a right to get murdered, but I feel like it would give some people some peace of mind, because it's like, okay, well, he shouldn't have been at the sundown state. Didn't he know that that's white people town? You don't go over there, right? It would make a little bit more sense. But the boy went to school, folks. That's what makes me, this story makes me so upset. I usually don't get emotionally involved, but I have to. This was a 17-year-old boy. It could have been your child. He went to school and he was murdered in school, and the school did nothing about it. The principal has nothing to say. The teachers have nothing to say. The faculty, the school safety, nobody has nothing to say. Nothing. The parents, luckily, they didn't back down. They went to the courtrooms and, to protest, and they was arrested for protesting. Typical. But I need to know, what are the laws when a student passes away in school? Like, that's a real question. Like, if a child passes away in school, what's the protocol? Like, there's no protocol. The teachers, the whoever is in the room, I feel like needs to be liable. And it's just unfair to the family. It's unfair to society. Like, this is scary. I heard the story before, but I didn't really listen to it until last night watching the documentary, because there's other documentaries, but this is the one with his family in it, and it was very heartfelt. And yeah, they're a very strong family. I really look up to that. They got arrested on his behalf. Some people would be afraid to get arrested, but once you lose your son, it's like, there's nothing to live for. So they was like, you know what, we gonna fight for justice. We might as well. But that's scary to me, because I feel like that can happen to anybody's black child. That they could go to school and it could be covered up. And it's sad, because with public school, you send your child to a diverse school because you want them to have a better education. But sometimes it's not worth it. If they're gonna be harassed for the color of their skin, or like that, pass away, it's sad. And you hear stories and it's sad. Even up here in New York, you have racist teachers. You have teachers that fail kids because they're black. All kind of stories I've heard about the places that I've worked, and I'm like, what? I worked there and I didn't know that was going on. But hearing it from a parent, oh yeah, you worked at that high school? Oh, my child went there. That school crazy. They racist. And I'm like, in Brooklyn though, in New York, like, we still going through this. So it's like, to watch that, and that's going on in Georgia, and the stories that I've heard about high schools that not only that I've worked at, but some schools that I haven't worked at, and I'm hearing that they're racist. It could happen up here too. And it's scary to me. It really is, because you want your child to have diversity. You want them to explore things that you never explored. My son goes to an all-black school, and it's a decent education and stuff. I actually wanted him to go to Bronx Science, but looking back on it, it's like, it's a reason why he failed that test, and it's good that he's in a high school that he's in where I know he's safe. But I feel like what happened to Kendrick Johnson, I feel like that can happen to anybody, because you could be fighting with a black kid and that kid could have a knife. And I'm pretty sure like those of y'all from Brooklyn, Franklin K. Lane is shut down. Before it shut down, I'm sure a lot of people passed away in that school, because it was gangs in there. It was bad. It's bad now. It's 6 different schools, but yeah, it's a lot of people. But that's the question. Like, when a child passes away on the campus, what's the protocol? Like, what's the, it's just sad. Rest in peace, Kendrick Johnson. Comment, like, and subscribe. about the story. Again, it's on YouTube. You can see it. It's also on Tubi. Look up Kendrick Johnson. Those are my thoughts.